Well, hello everybody. Today I am back in the bilge, and that's why it might sound a little bit echoey in here. If you recall last year, in the 2014 season, Anchor Girl and I, mostly me, did a shitload of work fixing the poop lines on our boat, replacing the holding tank for the pooper, and servicing the two toilets. We have two Vacuflush marine toilets on this boat. And if you recall as well, I posted a video on how to adjust the vacuum accumulator tank pressure switch, because our main toilet, that valve, it needed adjustment. I serviced the pump, replaced the duckbill valves, and after that it was just running, so I just had to dial it back a little bit. Subsequently, as in a couple of weeks ago, the switch for the day head, the second toilet, just didn't want to shut off at all. So I made it so it's not running at all. So right now, what I'm going to do is replace the pressure switch. As you can see, it comes in a whole assembly. I was after just this part here, which is the actual switch, and how this works. As the pump builds up vacuum pressure in the tank, this slides back and shuts the switch off. It's like like points in the ignition of a car. And so one cannot just buy this piece, or at least that's the marina couldn't get me one. So not just that piece. So the whole assembly came all as one unit. And I don't know if you can see that, but that is just a threaded on piece. And so all I got to do is disconnect the wires, thread this out, and then replace it. Now what I'm going to do is, given the fact this is a new one and this piece isn't cheap, it cost us $337 with tax, delivered to the boat. And as we don't use that day head very often, it gets hardly used at all. It's more like a guest washroom or an emergency washroom. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the switch, this assembly, out of our forward V berth, our master stateroom bathroom, for lack of a better term, and I'm going to swap it over to the one that's faulty on the day head, and I'm going to put this brand new one in for our toilet, because that one gets used continuously many times a day because we live on the boat. So that is that. That's all that comes with it, is just simply this piece here, and then a big honkin' O-ring. The part, like I say, it came all as one assembly. It is a Sealand Dometic vacuum tank switch kit, and there's the part number and everything else. I will try to remember to leave that in the description for you if you're after something like that. Yeah, right out of the box, these are factory set, and there's a little bit of goop on the pipe, or sorry, goop on the thread, because this is adjustable. This will turn, and I have done that. But from the factory, they set it, and then that's it. It's obvious at so many pounds. I think this thing is set at in around 10 or 12 pounds of vacuum. I think I recall reading that when I was going through our Vacuflush owner's manuals repeatedly last summer, try to figure everything out. So I will not touch this one. I may have to adjust the other one when it goes on to the other toilet one, swap it out, but again, that's just a simple dilly diddly do. Now, one last thing that I want to make mention of, put that down. Silly me. I know that there's the wires that, there's just set screws in there, so I got to dial them back to get the wires off for the connections. And silly me, I grabbed a Phillips head screwdriver. But then I remembered that this part came for the glorious United States of America, which I love visiting. Big Prairie, Ohio. And I'm guessing that's where it's actually made, because it is somewhat of a proprietary thing. But what the hell is wrong with American manufacturers? Still stuck in the 19th century. Not the 1900s, the 19th century, the 1800s. Because they still ship stuff with friggin' flathead screws. Which drives me crazy. I'm in construction, and when I have to, if something new comes out of box, assembly, a light fixtures, for example, or whatever like that, and they come separately, those are the first things that go bing through the air, because all these things are designed to do is to cut your fingers and wear the skin off your knuckles. I know I've mentioned this before, and other people have commented as well. There's a Canadian invention called the Robertson screw, which is a square. There's the slot, and then there's the Phillips, which kind of star, right? And Robertson are square, and it's the best invention ever. But since it was invented from Mr. Robertson in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, it's been very, very slow to gain prominence in the United States manufacturing. And I don't know why, because they're the best type of screw heads that I know of. So anyways, that's that. I'm going to do this. I'm hoping it's not going to create a huge mess down in the bilge, because it's so gleamingly clean down there and fresh smelling and everything else after changing the lines and whatnot last year. It's been cleaned and over cleaned, and Anchor Girl has cleaned it again, and probably again on top of that. So it's nice, neat, and clean. So I'm hoping that everything will have blown past the vacuum pump and head down to the holding tank itself. And so hopefully when I unscrew this, we're not going to have a poop fest down in the bilge. But it is what it is. It's got to be done. So here is the tight confines that I have to work in. And here are the two pumps. This is for the day head. And that one there, the far one, is for the master stateroom head. And the vacuum accumulator tanks are just ahead of it on the toilet side of the action. So these pieces will screw right into that. Just take that cover off. You can see where the wires are going, the leads. Disconnect the power supply and unscrew that. Of course, I will flush the toilets a few times. The day head toilet's been flushed a number of times with clean water already. I'm going to fire some clean water through that one. And then shut off the pump on the DC panel. Give it one more quick flush, and hopefully that will evacuate everything out of these things. I'm really, really hoping so. And then pop them off and see what we got. Okay, got a quick FYI for you, and the reason why I am sweating is because I had to pull this new unit out. I'm going to show you why. Once this goes back into place, there is the cover plate there that slides over to protect the wiring, and that unit there has got two slots in it. So all you do is taking the old one out, just back the screws out a little bit and it'll slide out. Now the problem is with the new one, these are not pre-drilled, and so for me to get a screw started, I tried it. Of course I didn't realize until it was actually in place and hooked up and tested and running fine. Was putting the cover back on, or at least attempting to, realize that these aren't pre-drilled. And like I said, I was trying to set a screw with it down in there, and it was not happening. So I shut the system off, released the vacuum, and took it out. So now I'm just going to pre-drill a couple of screws there with my 1/8 bit. And I'm going to set the screws and leave them out maybe 1/4 of an inch, and then it should be all ready to go. Now one other thing that I did, I'm going to show you just before I put it together. There's only 2 wire leads that run into it, so I marked on the old unit where they go, and if you can see, there's a blue magic marker X that I put on it, because you see one of the mounts is a little bit wider, one is shorter, but they're both in line. I mean, there's 4 potential areas, but I just hooked this up the way it was initially. And so, like I say, just so I didn't forget, I took photos and videos to remind myself, And as well, I made the little mark there, the X as you can see, and the corresponding mark on the connector for the wire itself. It might not show up in this light too good, but it is right there. So you might want to do that yourself just so you don't forget. Whew. So that's it. I'm all done. They're all back in place again. One for the second time. And it's all done together. The last note that I just want to make, of course, just real quickly, I pressure tested them and run them and flush them. They're all good, and they're cycling and shutting off happily like they're supposed to be. Last final note on this project is that I was surprised and very happy to learn that when I unscrewed those pressure switches out of the vacuum accumulator pump, there's no spillage, there's no water, nothing. Of course, the first thing you want to do before you start doing this job is shut the water off, like shut the water pumps off, as well as shut off at your DC panel the pumps for the toilets themselves. Flush the toilet, or toilets in our case, we have two of them, and that will evacuate the vacuum out of the tank and get rid of most of the stuff that's in the tank and flush it away. Of course, just the back side of the valves, a little poopy and stinky, but anyways, we're done. And that's it for this job, and hopefully I don't have to crawl back down inside there again this year, because as you see with the air conditioning on, it's a hot job, and it's very tight to get in there. So hopefully you learned something, and hopefully you never have to do this yourself. That's it from the bilge of Boogaboo for now. Cheers.